Protected Trust Live. My name is Steve Goodman, Training Coordinator at Protected Trust. Joining me today, Ingram Leedy, CEO of Protected Trust. Hello, how are you doing?
Good.
And joining us for the first time, maybe not on camera, but first time on the panel, Seth Wilson.
Hello.
And Seth is joining us because this particular topic he has delved deep in and has written.
I've done much Googling.
He has done many research on this topic. And the topic is we're going to be going over the attack that happened at Atlanta, and basically the ransomware that had them crippled for not just days but weeks at this point.
Yeah.
And Ingram, can you just tell us exactly what happened in Atlanta?
Well, Atlanta's all IT system's been shut down over the last, about a week or two ago?
2 weeks, yeah.
I just saw in the news today that they finally got their Wi-Fi back up in the Atlanta airport.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, they were attacked by some sort of attack vector, and they received a ransomware. It's called the SAM ransomware, and it goes in and encrypts all this data, and then asks for a ransomware, which is the people that perpetrated are asking for $51,000 in Bitcoin.
Right.
So what it has done is shut down a lot of their IT services and in a way crippled them. And you can't pay your water bill, you can't get on Wi-Fi. I'm sure there's a lot of other IT services that they're not talking about that are down. And one reason we thought we'd talk about it a little more today was about we're seeing the same attack vector happening with other clients that we deal with in cities and governments that we work with.
So they're still investigating exactly how this attack got in, right? They
Yes.
still haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah, and I don't think it's something they'll publicly disclose anyway, because you don't want to be talking about the way the attack vector happened
right.
as they're dealing with it. So it's probably smarter of them to not provide as much information as possible, but make people aware of what's happening.
Right. So you said that it's not just happening to Atlanta. That's just the most famous case. You said that it was happening.
Yeah, I think I read the city of Colorado was just a few weeks before this, or was the last city. But
And Dallas today.
Yeah, in Dallas there was a pipeline company that has been shut down by a cyber attack. Last Wednesday was Boeing had some sort of cyber attack. Actually, another ransomware attack, WannaCry, and there's just more. It's more prevalent. We're seeing it. I'm seeing it with our clients are being attacked in certain ways, and what I thought I'd like to do is just talk about what it looks like to be attacked, or what attack looks like, and how simple it is.
Right, because I think there's a misconception on exactly how obvious it is to spot an attack.
Yeah.
It's been, I think, ever since ransomware became a thing, it's just been evolving more and more. And like you said before, as soon as you report on exactly how someone got in, they change their method, and it becomes even harder to detect.
It's getting very sophisticated. You and I have talked about this before. Is like it's not just generalized phishing is one attack vector, or a way to get people's attention and get their login credentials, but targeting those people in a way when you know something about those people, or know just some internal information, how much more information you can get out of people.
Okay, well, let's take a look at what you got here.
Forgot me on the screen here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I just first of all just talk about the statistics a little bit. One thing is, in the city of Atlanta, it's possible, and statistically, that there's a 140-day median is how often someone's actually in your system before you even detect it.
So they've already hacked,
yeah.
But they haven't done anything in order to warrant suspicion.
Correct. And I think a lot of that might be data gathering, or just getting time to get to them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of these systems are automated, and it may be just there's a bot somewhere that performed the attack, and then they're waiting for a human to come along and decide what to do with it. So 75% of all the attacks are done by breaking a user credential. It's usually a password, typically. So, and then obviously they say it's a $6 trillion cybercrime worth of impact to the economy. And they were saying the average cost of a data breach is $4 million. And I could only guess how much the city of Atlanta is either losing in money or paying in overtime and paying consultants. I've seen in the papers how many people are advising them on what to do and how to help them.
It's costing them a heck of a lot more than the $51,000.
Right, I was just about to say.
Yeah, it almost be like maybe you should pay the ransom, but that just is rewarding the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, the FBI actually requests that people do not pay the ransom, and they remind people that over half the time you don't even get your data back once you pay the ransom. So it's normally a fruitless effort. Just bad news all around.
Phishing is what, and what sort of spurred this whole conversation that we're having today is a phishing attack. And it's, just like you're going fishing with a hook and bait is you're tossing it out to somebody and seeing if they'll take the bait and reel them in, and then you got them. And I don't think people realize what, they hear phishing, but today I want to show them what a phishing attack. And this is a real live, not a live, but this happened within days ago. And the reason it came to my attention is because it's just how sophisticated and how good it looked. I think a lot of cities would fall for something like this, and my bet is that the city of Atlanta fell for something like this. It could be even the same email campaign, because I'm seeing this attack with other cities right now.
But we won't know.
Well, we won't know until they're done
They're holding
investigating
their cards
it.
pretty
If
close.
they even know, they may not even know.
That's
It's
true.
possible, or it could be just one employee that was the compromise and brought the whole system down. So you don't know that until you analyze it.
But this is your best guess as to what happened.
I think it is, because I'm seeing this with other cities.
Okay.
Okay. So basically what this is that someone sends you a convincing email. And but this particular one was sent to another county here in Florida, and from another county. And it's from the Orange County tax collector. And it has, at the bottom, you can see it has a real name and a real address. It looks like somebody from the tax collector's office, and it says see attachment. It's really simple, And what's interesting about this is that we talk about training our employees to be aware of what a phishing campaign looks like. Well, this is what you would train them on, is to show them what one looks like, and this is an example of one. But even after you train them, and if you put posters around your offices and did videos and sat down with them and showed them, even like we're doing today, still 15% of your users are going to click through one of these emails and provide username and password, no matter what you do.
And it only takes one user to corrupt the whole
One
system.
user, yeah.
And really, that training helps you ward off against the sort of randomized, the sort of
Yes.
wide cast nets. When we see people specifically targeting an organization, those email, we would click on them. We sort of feel like sometimes, and much less the most gullible user that you have in an organization. So, definitely a scary open door.
I've been collecting, I have a folder in my Outlook, I've been collecting ones that have been phishing against me, because I thought some of them were very clever. And I was remodeling my house, and I got a PO for something, which was nothing to do with my house. It was a PO to pay some sort of construction bill. So I don't know if maybe they saw me pull a tax record somewhere or do something, or if it was even really targeted towards me. But you can see how knowing just a little bit of information about somebody, how you can manipulate them. Even like if you're refinancing your house or something like that, you get all these letters in the mail about how refinancing, probably 90% of them are scams maybe, or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But some of them might be real, And I think the email is the same way, is if they know a little bit of information about what you're doing in your life, they can use that to their advantage. So in this case, this is the city or county to county communications about some sort of tax records. And what we saw is this particular type of email, not all of them are from the same sender, but this was an example of one. And what it is an attachment. So it says basically it looks from a legitimate user, and there's an attachment here. So the user clicks the attachment, and what it does is opens up a PDF file. And it's just something simple. Again, it has the logo. It looks like it's from the Orange County Tax Collector's office. Probably Scott Randolph is the tax collector. And it says they shared a document with you to please open and click this document. So what do? You click it. And so when you click it, it takes you to a web page. And then the web page asks you to log in. It says, hey, in order to pick up this encrypted message, or to pick up this document, or to pick up this file, this one says Dropbox, but I've seen them, this particular one, I've seen Dropbox, I've seen it not say anything. I've seen it to unencrypt your message, click this. There's a lot, this whole thing gets swapped out with other messages. And it's kind of like they're A/B testing. They're sending a lot of different variants of it, and they're basically statistically showing which ones are working better than others, right? So it's like they're doing Google Analytics on these.
And I like that they make it convenient for you to get compromised on any of these services.
Oh, yeah.
You
That's true. So in this case, our clients are using Microsoft 365, so they click on either Outlook or 365, and what prompts them is a login screen that looks just like Office 365. And so they put in their username and they put in their password, and they click the button, and they're in. They have their credentials now. So, and they may provide like a message that says, hey, this is, or give them an error message or something to say, not to tip them off that something bad happened, but they don't even aware that something happened. And in this particular case, what we saw is that the website then logged in through your 365 on the back end without you knowing about it, and then it put a mail rule into your mailbox, a mail forwarding rule. And then that mail forwarding rule, so like I say that attacker was in using that account, could then go to like another service and using the same email address and say reset password. And the reset password would come to your 365 account. It would then be mail forwarded to the attacker's fake email address. And then they would basically be able to reset passwords on other services that you have. Or the password you use on 365 might even be the same password you're using on all these other services, which is very likely as well.
So they would create a rule inside of your mailbox that, say, with the keyword password reset, or keywords, right? Because they just want that one forwarded off to.
Well, that or they just forward them all. In our case, we're seeing them forward all the mail. The reason the users even saw this is because they weren't receiving any new mail. And they're like, I'm getting mail. People are sending me mail, but I'm not getting any new mail. So we investigated. We looked in there. We saw, hey, there's a mail forwarding rule on here. I see. And so then we investigated and found out they were being compromised by this type of attack. Another thing this will do, now that it has the credentials of your 365 account, is then they would log in as that person and send the same scam message as you to other people. So not only is it's not forged or anything, it's actually coming from the real person in the real person's email box and validated by the organization and sent out just as if you sent it.
So they're leveraging your reputation to get their scam across.
And going back to that first slide we looked at is that 140 days you could be living in the system without being detected. Just think if they got into your account, lived in your mailbox for 140 days, what could they learn?
That's right.
Yeah.
What's scary is the second part about that, because then it's a legitimate message. So if you were tech savvy, you looked at the mail headers, you would see this is a legitimate message.
It's real.
So I'm going to go ahead and click on this link because it's from who it says it is.
If I sent you an email saying, hey, could you click this link and open this encrypted message, you're likely going to open that message from me.
That's right.
Right? So this is what I'm seeing. We've seen this with several organizations now, and obviously we're going to talk about how you prevent something like this. But if you have no protection right now, this is the stuff that's happening to people, and this is a very common thing that's happening.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example of a fileless hack, as they call it. About a half of businesses in 2017 reported some sort of attack that was successful at their business. And then 3/4 of those businesses didn't have any sort of file as evidence. There was no .exe file, there was no file that could easily be screened. They just had a password, they just had some information in their head. That's not trackable. So normally by the time these things are discovered, the evidence is long gone. You can't rely that you're going to find the person.
With the city of Atlanta, it's the SamSam ransom, which is an attack by using RDP, remote desktop protocol, into a server, basically. And what they said in the news is they said, well, it's most likely there was a port open somewhere in their firewall or something like that. Well, most likely they just have someone's username and password, and they just logged into they remote desktoped into something with the password they had, or they VPN'd in, or they were maybe even on the Wi-Fi. Their office could be why the Wi-Fi was shut down.
Well, network attacks are like last decade. I mean, why go through all the trouble of hacking into someone's network when someone will literally just give you the keys to their company?
So having a username and password is golden, and who knows what you could do with that, So, and I want to step through. There's two other examples I want to show you, and these are much simpler attacks, but just statistically how scary they are. So this one's called password spray, and a password spray is basically just brute force attacking on your mailbox, and this happens a lot. I think Microsoft estimated there was like 2.4 million attacks like a year or something like some crazy number. I don't even know how big that is. It's so big. But all it is taking a list. If you see on the right there's a list of 25 commonly used passwords, and and this graph below is a statistic from Microsoft showing how many times the mailboxes and the organizations have been compromised over the months just using password spray. And so they're saying statistically it's about a 1% and 2% chance of any user in your organization having a common password. And there's variants of common passwords. Like if you have reset password policy rules, after 90 days, reset your password. Well, typically we talked about this the other day, somebody puts just the number 1 at the beginning. A lot of people have a complex password policy. They'll say, hey, you have to have a character has to be capitalized and a numerical number and like a special character. Well, basically what you're telling them is the format of the characters to be used in the password. So you know that one of them is a capital letter. It's typically the first letter. And you know that there's a number in it. And you know that there's like a special character, which is usually at the end.
Right.
And so using this variance or using dictionary attacks and things like that, you can basically statistically get into anyone's mailbox at least 1% of the time in any organization. So that's scary, right?
Well, and that's why the last live stream we did about multi-factor authentication. I mean, that is so
Yes.
crucial. When you have a password, you can come and go as you please. If you've got multi-factor authentication, you at least have a chance of catching it on your cell phone or your email account. You see that someone's trying to log in, and there's that is crucial for stopping stuff like that.
And you said you had one more example of a password?
The whole idea is
or
the
attack.
death of passwords. I mean, we should get rid of passwords.
Well, at least make them simple. I mean, the ones that make you change them all the time. I mean, by the 10th one that I've changed, I'm out of passwords. I'm fresh out.
And you use that same password probably on other websites.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what the next attack. Well, actually, I was going to show you really quickly. You can just go down to. I'd like to say go down to Staples, but you can go down and download these applications. They're publicly available. In fact, they're good tools to use internally in your organization. Is you just load these lists and with the common passwords and then test them against your organization, and it'll then sort it all out. Yeah, here's the stat. It says in 365, Password Spray took down 45,000 accounts in August. Is that crazy?
And it's from that list you showed us.
Yeah. So the breach replay is the next type of attack, and this is the one, this is Microsoft stat. Attacker replay is 12 million accounts per day in August. 12 million per day. Now, what is a breach replay, right? So a breach relay is already an attack that's already happened somewhere. And like if you looked at like the Ashley Madison attack, which I know you guys are not on that list. But if you were on that list, and there are people, even in our city and county, there's the statistical portion of people that we know are on this list. That whole list was compromised and publicly available on the internet. And so all the username and passwords on Ashley Madison are publicly available on the online right now. And so you can go in and find this list and find out who the people are and find their email and password on it. So I'm using this one because this is a well-known one. But there are a lot of other ones like this that are happening. I just read today that Panera Bread, which I use, had they had exposed all of their accounts online like yesterday, and you were able to download them. Well, so now I'm thinking, well, do they have my password or not? Because it's probably the same password I use for another, like McDonald's or something. I don't know. But yeah, now they have that's publicly available.
That's
now
why
too.
I never bother with that My Panera card.
Yeah.
They're just tracking me anyway.
Yeah, they are tracking. So these lists are publicly available. In fact, you can even buy other lists that people have provided online. And once you get these lists, you put them into a tool. And Microsoft processed 2.4 billion credentials in 2017. That's how many compromised accounts are out on the internet right now that you can go purchase or download or buy or find and put them into a tool. And you can run this tool against your organization or someone else's, and it will then say how many of those are good accounts, bad accounts, or blocked accounts, or undetected accounts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was just last year, 2017, that we had the Equifax breach, where I mean, if you have a credit card or a car loan or are an adult, you pretty much got compromised in that attack. It just keeps happening.
Yeah. So in this thing, there's 2% match rate. So that means that an organization like ours, potentially there's a 2% match rate of username and password credentials. So, and I kind of find that hard to believe, but then I do believe it because I look at, we've done our own examination on ourselves. We've done security risk assessments, and we'll talk about that at the end. But we've done that on ourselves and tested ourselves, and we have found that ourselves are prone to phishing attacks.
So are most technical guys. I mean, the guys that would be the first to throw you under the bus if you did.
That's right.
I think the amazing thing about this is, let's say that you practice good password hygiene and you're doing everything right in the workplace. But if you use that same password at, let's say, Panera Bread, they now know your work password.
Yeah.
So you could have done everything right at work, but as soon as you started, lapsing in your private life using the same work password, they're in.
I'm guilty. I'm going to admit I'm guilty of it too, though, because, me being a security professional, when have my public persona that's out there, my Panera Bread account, I tend to use the same public passwords and rotate them around a little bit. But on my work stuff, I'm much more serious about it. And also we have controls in place to help prevent that kind of behavior. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm doing it. I know everyone else is doing it too. Have you ever reused a password?
No, never.
So the question is what to do about it, and I thought this was interesting. Is there are things that it's not the end of the world, and it's just much like we talked about before, is protecting your house. If you do things on your house like turn the lights on and lock the doors and put the blinds down at night, you most likely won't get attacked by a burglar. But a house that has its lights off and the blinds down are more likely to get attacked, right? And where a burglar may feel more secure inside your house with the blinds down and lights off, right?
Well, I like privacy when I'm doing my burgling.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
I don't want people seeing me.
And you could live in the house for 140 days and hang out, figure out look at all their pictures and figure out a lot of things about them, right? And that's kind of what's happened in cybersecurity today. So Microsoft, Verizon comes out with a really good annual cybersecurity report. There's a couple other ones. It takes a lot. In some ways, I'm not sure how they gather some of this information, because people that do get breached don't really share the information either. But there is a community that is sharing. Microsoft has done a biannual security intelligence report that's just was released about a month ago. But what I noted out of there, one of the most interesting things about it is they stress the value of user awareness training. So the idea that just teach your users about what those threats are and what to look for, how to prevent it. And even though statistically still 15% of people still provide credentials, it's better to have 15 than 100%, right, or 80%. So it says that if you're just training your user is the best firewall, it's the best human firewall you could possibly have, is just a person.
Yeah.
And everything else are all these controls. Being at your house while a burglar comes in is probably the best deterrent that you could have than you not being there, right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of the same idea. Seth mentioned the next thing is multi-factor authentication. And that sounds like a real scary long word, but it's basically something else than just your username and password. It's like ask for something else. So like verification from your cell phone. And there's pros and cons about which types to use, but multi-factor is probably the biggest, most important thing you could probably enable in every organization. And you told me this the other day, Apple, like iTunes, is like asking you to enable this stuff now.
Well, because with that account, you can then spoof your text messaging. Yeah. So you can get your text messages on a laptop with that account. So it pretty much would undo all of your other MFAs because you have that.
They did it probably, right? Yeah, so I mean, it's just good thing to do. It's still hard to do, and I think that that's what we got to figure out. There's better ways to help people do multi-factor authentication. The last thing, which I'm going to kind of do like a sneak preview of, is the identity protection, which is really a bunch of machine learning and policies and controls. So the idea that Microsoft is collecting all the security intelligence, and they're looking at known behaviors and bad things that are happening and putting into AI, and these analytics are determining and figuring out exactly how a breach is happening. So this next slide is sort of a graphic on that. So, so these in the front here are conditions. They're areas that people come in. There's users, devices that come in from certain locations, and there are certain apps that are accessing your internal network. So everybody understands that, I think. And then what happens is, all this data is ingested on every login. So what Microsoft 365 is doing is every time you log in to SharePoint, OneDrive, your email, check an email, you use your phone, log into Azure, all this information is being stored and collected and analyzed. And so it's going into this gigantic machine learning system. And they're saying it's 10 terabytes. Actually, I've heard it's actually to like a 40 or maybe even 70 terabytes of data now that's being analyzed. Then it goes against policies that you may have in your organization, which is another thing that should be set up in your organization. And then there's a real-time evaluation engine. It takes this machine learning and those policies and then decides what to do about it. So what they're doing is they're giving you a risk assessment score. So every time you log in to your Outlook or email now, you're getting scored. So if you're logging in, Seth went on vacation to Belgium last summer, right?
Holland.
Holland, yeah. So we got an alert that that Seth was checking his email. You were supposed to be on vacation, but you got an alert that you were logging in from Holland. And
It could have been Belgium. I took a train through Belgium.
yeah, so you could on your
Could have
phone,
been
you
on-
could check your
yeah.
email. So anyway, what it do is give them a score, and if that score met a certain policy that we had in place, or it was some sort of evaluation that was considered a very serious risk, if you were at a known IP or it was a known thing, then it probably would have blocked you or it confronted you with some other credential, you know. So the controls are in place. We talk about the house, protecting your house. Controls are the locks, the doors, the blinds, the lights, the dog, the moat, all the things that you could put around your house to protect the most critical thing inside your house, which is your data. These are all the controls that you put in place. And so we talked a lot about MFA. And MFA is the multi-factor stuff, but also just actually we're asking users to force reset their passwords or just deny their access. Limiting access is a good one too, is like in a city government, it may be that you just want people to log in when they're at work. And so if you're at their office, we know what IPs they are at. Just say, put a policy in place is only let the users check their email when they're at work. If they go home or they're outside the country, don't let them access their accounts. So with City of Atlanta, if they had limit access on there, that would have been a great prevention tool, because that phishing attack that I just played through, having any of these controls in place, especially MFA or limit access or even deny access, would have prevented someone from compromising one of those accounts.
And that brings a good point. I mean, these are all sort of customized solutions, because you have to strike that balance, right, between finding a solution that's absolutely secure and one that's too onerous to even use, and that will just get the IT guy in trouble because he made everything hard to log into. Finding that balance is why you normally need kind of an outside expert, someone that's implemented these policies before, because without that experience, you'll probably end up with a system that's either a little too liberal or one that nobody likes using.
I call that security posture. It's like, do you want to be more aggressive or balanced, or a little more lax? That's up to the organization to decide. City of Atlanta, I don't want to fault anybody, but they could have been a more balanced or relaxed security policy if they had these tools in place, MFA. Limit access or deny access. I mean, as much as a pain they are to use, it probably would have prevented the attack.
An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure, for sure.
Another really nice note about using tools like this is, we talked about MFA, enable it. MFA is another step. I don't want to have to MFA log in every time I check an email, right? But the MFA itself, if you guys have used it, it doesn't ask you every time, right?
Yeah, it's every 30 days, I think.
Yeah.
Every 30 days.
And what it's doing is it knows that you logged in from your phone. It knows what IP you logged in. If you went and logged in from your house, or you did take another trip, this time maybe to
maybe I'll be allowed to go one day.
is that it would then detect something unusual that you did and then prompt you or challenge you with your MFA. But even using MFA, you can set a policy where it doesn't require MFA every time. It could just require MFA if it sees some sort of suspicious activity, which is what I like. As like, if we unrolled a new organization, is like that security posture is to be a little more balanced. Say, hey, most users really don't need to want to do MFA, but if we put these policies in place and we do see suspicious activity, then we can probably prevent most or all of this suspicious activity that could be trying to compromise your account.
It's sort of like automated cars today, these sort of automated controls. They'll do a lot of it. You still have to have your hands on the wheels and eyes on the road.
It's like driving a Tesla with the autopilot, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't trust it. But
And maybe we should talk slightly about how easy it is now for administrators to implement these things.
Yeah.
Because it used to be you have to go to different companies. But with our services, it's all in one thing.
Yeah.
It's one package.
I'd like to do a deep dive too, because not today, but like we should sit down and do a deep dive and showing you what the policies look like and how to do them as an example. In fact, I was talking about like what we might want to offer up is like, I was thinking we might write a blog post about this, and we'll put it in the links at the bottom of the video, but just a free security assessment for clients. If one thing is a 12-point security checklist is like, it's like going to get your car checked out is like, there's just 12 things that you could be doing to your organization that just make common sense and common practice good things. And just knowing what that list is. If the city of Atlanta had taken the 12-point checklist, they most likely wouldn't have gotten attacked or compromised. The other thing is, I would wonder if even Atlanta had done any phishing baseline training or testing. And just like we've done internally, is we've done an internal security awareness testing. Is we've tested we didn't tell anybody, right? We told a few people, and it was kind of fun because we could run this test against them and see who provided credentials or who clicked links. And even if they didn't provide credentials, you still learn a lot about a user. You learn, like, if they click stuff, you learn what browser they're using. Inside the browser information tells you about what IP they came from, about what kind of computer they're using, what version of Chrome they're using, or Edge, or Internet Explorer, Firefox. So there's a lot of information that just clicking on something tells you about a user. And then lastly is just a security awareness training, is that putting a program in place to not just do it one time and be done and put a checkbox on there, but keep aware of all these security training issues. Just like seeing that phishing attack we saw, we're seeing something that we're seeing things first before a lot of other cities are seeing it. And if we get that information out to our clients quicker and help them and explain this information to them, then that helps them. Also helps them if they do the security checklist. It helps them when they do all these things. If they become part of this program, it just helps them be a more secure organization. And so we get to leverage the eyes on thousands and thousands of clients when you're a small company or a small organization with, you don't have time to be looking at stuff, but this is what we do all day. And so we're aware of these things happening before a lot of people do.
So if I could summarize at least the ending.
Okay.
If you are interested in reading more about this, we will have a blog post in the description, a link to it, and a way to sign up for future blog posts. Yeah.
In fact, what we're doing is, and this is part of the big pillar picture, is that we will have a mailing list that we'd invite you to subscribe to. And what we're going to do is, as we do videos, we're going to convert them into blog posts, and we may provide other additional information than what we can do in a video. But talk about the more details of things.
Right. Some people may not want to sit through the entire video.
Right.
Give me the meat.
Give me the meat.
Potato,
Right.
And we'll do that, and we'll also put a link to sign up for a phishing baseline test.
Yeah, we'd offer up if you guys want to try a phishing baseline test just to see where you position. The first 25 people or so that want to come sign up for, we'll give it to you for free.
So if you think your organization can pass with flying colors, sign up for this phishing test and let us prove you wrong.
We dare you.
We dare you.
We're going to point anybody out. And especially when we did our organization, it's not like we're trying to single any employees out, even though there were some I'd like to. It's just that it's just good baseline knowledge to know where you stand. And so then you can decide what to do about it. And for us, one of the things was implementing MFA with policy controls. And I go to bed at night a lot, I feel more safe and sound now having these security controls in place.
Well, I think that's a good place to stop. Seth?
I'm happy.
I'm happy as well. So, if you have enjoyed watching this video, please leave a like or click subscribe if you would like to be notified when we make new videos. And thank you to our clients who make these videos possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.